meeting Xiao Yan again. Even light disappeared within the dark, empty realm. This world was monotonous and lonely. At the same time, it was plagued with much danger.
There would occasionally be some surging chaotic spatial flow that could forcefully shatter an expert dozun. Hence, other than the ancient void dragons, which specialized in spatial strength, seldom would any humans or experts from other races enter the empty realm. Of course, this kind of place might be completely remote and deserted to others, but it was quite beneficial for the ancient void dragon tribe. The chaotic spatial flow in this place was not only able to train their control over spatial strength, but they were also able to use the tearing force of the chaotic flow to train their extremely strong physical bodies. Some light suddenly appeared from within the nothingness. If one were to look in the direction of the light, one would see an extremely huge island suspended in the emptiness. Bang bang! Extremely intense energy explosions continued to be emitted from that enormous island. Wave after wave of wild and violent energy attacks began to sweep in all directions from the island like a storm. Everything within 100,000 feet from that island was completely destroyed. There were quite a number of people waiting gravely in the empty space around the island. Sharp eyes swept around the island. Anyone attempting to charge out of the island would be violently smashed down by the storm-like attacks. These troops had formed an airtight dragnet which completely surrounded the island. 20 people were lingering at a certain spot above the island. Their eyes continued to sweep over this group at the middle. A cold and stern-looking strong man was sitting down in the middle of the group. The aura of this person was quite strong. He was even a little stronger than He Qing. He was an expert who had reached the 9th change peak of the dozun class. Swoosh! This large man stared intently at the island below. Suddenly, his ears slightly moved as his eyes swung around the empty space in the distance. His body suddenly stood up as he let out a deep cry. Be careful, someone is approaching. A cluster of light suddenly flashed and appeared from deep within the darkness after his last word sounded. It appeared a short distance from the group within a couple of flashes. He Qing, they are from the Eastern Dragon Island. Attack! The eyes of the large man were extremely sharp. He managed to identify He Qing from within the cluster of lights with a glance. His expression sank as he cried out in a cold voice. Understood. The many human figures cried out in an orderly fashion after hearing his shout. Many powerful energy light pillars shot out. Their combined attack gave them an extremely powerful momentum. Bang! However, a faint voice was emitted while these light pillars approached the cluster of lights. Everyone was horrified to watch those many light pillars explode with a bang. Soon after, a frightening strength that could not be resisted surged out of the empty space and violently struck their bodies. Grug! This attack was undoubtedly an exterminating force for the warriors from these 3 great dragon islands. The armors on those many warriors was shattered into dust. Other than the big man, who had reached the 9th change peak of the dozun class, the remaining people fell to the dragon island below. Bastard, who exactly are you? The large man's eyes were shocked as he saw their defenses crumbling in the blink of an eye. He quickly let out a low roar. The flowing light slowly disappeared a short distance in front of the large man. Xiao Yan stepped out from within a light. His eyes did not pause on the large man in front of him. Instead, they swept over the dragon island below. At this moment, the Eastern Dragon Island was filled with holes. Extremely intense battles erupted all over the place. A wild and violent energy caused the entire island to become much dimmer. Although the Dragon Island was in a complete chaos, Xiao Yan could see that the defensive line of the eastern dragon island had shrunk from the outer region to the central dragon hall. That location was the middle of the eastern dragon island. In other words, other than the territory around the dragon hall, almost 2/3 of the eastern dragon island had been captured by the three great dragon islands. This situation was quite bad. Where is Ziyan? Xiao Yan's eyes swept around him, but he did not discover a hint of Ziyan. He frowned and had just posed a question when an extremely frightening energy ripple was suddenly transmitted over. Xiao Yan's expression was slightly altered upon sensing this energy fluctuation. He lifted his head and looked for the source of this energy fluctuation. He found a bright sun-like light suspended at that spot. It was possible to vaguely see a couple of figures exchanging blows with lightning-like speed. After each exchange, waves of terrifying energy storm would sweep apart. If they weren't some distance from the Dragon Island, these remnant waves would have completely destroyed the eastern Dragon Island. Xiao Yan's eyes stared intently at the circle of light. A flame slowly surged into both of his eyes, allowing his gaze to penetrate through the light and capture everything inside. A somewhat familiar back with long purple hair that emitted a faint enchantment was the first to be imprinted into his sight. Who else could that familiar demeanor belong to other than Ziyan? However, her current appearance was no longer that of a little girl. Instead, she had become a great beauty. Her tall figure was wrapped within a dark golden form-fitting armor. The armor was not bulky. It pressed against her exquisite and well-proportioned body, outlining her beautiful and sexy curves. The faint temptation hit a bone-piercing chill. The little girl from back then had become such an alluring and bewitching lady. That exquisite face contained an additional cold aura because her eyebrows had been lifted slightly. Although she was still young, it was possible to see a faint aura of authority between her thin eyebrows. Once she fully matured, her demeanor of royalty as the Dragon Emperor of the ancient Void Dragon tribe would frighten anyone looking at her. On the opposite side of Ziyan stood three figures. The three of them possessed middle-aged appearance. Each and every action they made was domineering, revealing their fierce and overbearing nature. Those are the three great dragon kings, huh? Xiao Yan's eyes locked onto the three figures. A grave expression flashed across his eyes. He could sense that those three possessed a strength that surpassed Yao Ming. In other words, those three fellows were, at the very least, 3-star doushangs. Ziyan was holding a long dark golden spear that was taller than her body as she stood within the light sphere. The spear danced and emitted a glaring golden glitter. It had managed to prevent the three great dragon kings from gaining an advantage. Her fighting strength was completely unleashed. It seemed that her dragon phoenix constitution caused her strength to soar. Compared to Xiao Yan, it was likely that she could truly be described as having reached the peak in a single stride. Moreover, this peak was even higher than Xiao Yan. The dragon phoenix possessed the bloodline strength of the ancient void dragon and the heaven phoenix. It was the true ruler of the magical beast world. When a dragon phoenix truly reached the peak, this monstrous existence would not need to feel fear, even when facing a legendary Dou Qi. However, that was in the future. It had only been a short period of time since Ziyan had become Dragon Phoenix. Although her strength had soared during these few years, she still wasn't strong enough to face these three great dragon kings, who were a lot more experienced than her. It was obvious that this stubborn resistance could not last for long. Roar! While Xiao Yan had become absent-minded because of the battle in the distance, the large man from earlier suddenly emitted a dragon roar. You are seeking death. Xiao Yan's eyes turned cold after being awoken by the dragon roar. He threw a palm forward, That large man, whose body was rapidly pulling back, erupted into a cluster of bloody fog. This fellow was sending a message. Many 3 great Dragon Island experts are hurrying over. Elder Julie spoke in a deep voice. Let's head to the Dragon Hall first. Xiao Yan's eyes flickered. He did indeed see many figures rushing in this direction. Without hesitating, he moved his body and led the way to the Dragon Hall. Yao Ming and the others hurriedly followed behind him. Block them! The Dragon Island emitted many loud cries while Xiao Yan's group moved. There were many 3 great Dragon Island experts in front that were attempting to block Xiao Yan's group. Humph! Xiao Yan merely smiled as this obstruction formed. The Dou Qi within his body circulated to the limit. He widened his mouth and a sea of flames was spat out. Their frighteningly high temperature caused the expressions of some of the elite Ban Shang to change. With Xiao Yan's current strength, the strength of his heavenly flame was many times stronger than in the past. A sea of flames had spread by just widening his mouth. If this was in the past, he would have difficulty creating such a great force even if he had drained all of the Dou Qi within his body. Xiao Yan waved his hand as the sea of flames blocked the attacks. A fire barrier surrounded his group before they swiftly charged through the sea of flames. They had appeared in the air above the Dragon Hall within a couple of flashes. Where have you bastards come from? You dare to intervene in the plans of our 3 great Dragon Islands? An thunder-like explosive cry sounded the moment Xiao Yan appeared above the Dragon Hall. Immediately, a large black-faced man with a giant ape-like body appeared. He had a ferocious expression as he threw a punch toward Xiao Yan. The frightening strength caused the air within 1,000 feet completely vanish in an instant. Xiao Yan, be careful. He is the first commander of the Western Dragon Island, Xianmo. He has the strength of a 2-star Dou Sheng. Zhu Li's expression slightly changed upon seeing that large black-faced man. He hurriedly cried out in the process. Xiao Yan waved his sleeve. A gentle force delivered everyone to the Dragon Hall below before he turned his body. His body suddenly swelled and turned into a golden giant that was not inferior to the other party in the blink of an eye. After which, he threw a punch and collided head-on with Xianmo in front of many shocked pairs of eyes. Get lost! Xiao Yan's furious thunder-like roar of Xiao suddenly exploded over the sky the moment the clash occurred.